let's take a look at the standing double crochet stitch. So here I have a standing double crochet stitch. Here I have a regular double crochet stitch, and you can see that they look identical. So let's learn how to create this double crochet stitch out of nowhere. You can see it just appears. But before we do that, let's look at the anatomy of a regular double crochet stitch. So for double crochet, we wrap the yarn, we go into a space and draw up a loop. Then we create a chain stitch. We wrap that chain stitch. We create a second chain stitch, and then we bind off the previous double crochet. Let's do it again. So I wrap the yarn, I go in, drop a loop, I do a chain stitch, I wrap that chain stitch, I do a second chain stitch, and then I bind off the previous double crochet. Now usually when we're doing it, we do it fast, right? So we chain and wrap in one movement, and then we chain and bind off in a second movement. So it's more smooth. But this is the double crochet stitch. Let's now see how we can do that with the standing double crochet. So I just have a round that I started, and I started this round using the traditional chain 2 and count that first chain 2 as one of your double crochets. And you can see it blends in pretty well. You don't need to use this standing double crochet technique, but if you would like to, it makes your the places where you increase your rounds more seamless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave kind of a longish tail. Now for this project that I'm doing, I did 2 rounds of brown. I want to do 2 rounds of tan. So I'm going to leave enough of a tail that I can make a standing double crochet for two rounds. So I'm going to leave maybe around, I can't show you fully on camera, but this is around 10 inches of a tail. And I'm going to draw up through my yarn. Now remember, a double crochet stitch involves a single chain stitch that then gets wrapped. So I'm going to take my tail and wrap that double crochet, that first chain stitch rather. I'm going to take the tail and wrap it. Then I do a second chain stitch and I will wrap it again, and that second wrap will mimic the look of a bind off if there were a previous double crochet in this round. So now this is a standing double crochet stitch. I can go in to the next space and I can do my chain stitch and wrap it, my chain stitch and bind off, and you'll see that these look identical. You cannot distinguish my chain stitch from my regular double crochet. So I'm going to finish this round and start the video back up where I go to my slip stitch join, and then I'll show you how I do a standing double crochet on the next round. I have now crocheted all the way around. I just have one more double crochet to do. So I'm going to go in and do my double crochet. Now to finish this round, let's just take a look at the top. Let me pull this loose so I don't lose my place. If you look at the top of each of these double crochet stitches, they look like V's. But if you look at the top of the standing double crochet, you see the one side of the V, and then the other side of the V is actually formed by this tail. So if I pinch it, now it looks identical to all of the other double crochets. So usually when you do when you're coming into a new stitch, what you do is you will go under both legs of the V. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come under the front leg of the V, I'm going to come under the tail and I'm going to slip stitch to join. So I pulled my yarn too loose. Let me tension everything up. Okay. So I'm going to come underneath that front leg of the V. I'm going to come underneath that back tail. And usually what I do is I will just hold this tail and the back with my finger so that it stays kind of tight. And I will just do a slip stitch to join this round. So here is my round. There is an extra little slip stitch here that isn't present in between other double crochets. But other than that one very small difference, it looks virtually identical. You really can't see where the round stops and starts, which is pretty cool. Now to do the next round, I am going to make another standing double crochet. So remember, a double crochet is chain one, and then this tail that I had previously held in the back, I'm going to wrap this same tail around my chain stitch. So I have a chain stitch and I wrap it. I have a chain stitch, and then normally in a double crochet I bind off the previous stitch. I'm going to mimic what that looks like by doing a second wrap. So here we go. And then I will continue to double crochet like normal. Now in my pattern, I just am doing 2 rounds of tan before switching to another color. So I will end this, after this round, I'm going to end my thread. But you can see if you leave a long enough tail, you can just continue to wrap this tail around your chain stitch. Whenever you do your chain stitch to start a new round, you can use the same tail to wrap it and create more standing double crochets, and they look identical to a regular double crochet. Now in the brown here, I just did the traditional chain method. I just chained the start of the round, and even though it blends pretty well, right? Just to a casual observer, you are not going to see that this is a double crochet, this is a chain stitch, and this is a double crochet. It's pretty well camouflaged, but you can see a difference. With this wrapping your chain stitch method and doing a standing double crochet, it is identical. In fact, I think this was my standing double crochet. I had to really look at it. It's hard to tell where the start of any particular round is because it is so well camouflaged with everything else. It looks identical. So this method is one that I unvented. I'm sure other people have come across this method before, but this method would work. Let me get my yarn situated. This would work for any type of wrapped stitch. So if you think about what a half double looks like, you wrap it, you go in, you drop a loop, you do a chain stitch, then you wrap that chain stitch, and then you bind off the previous row, or the previous stitch rather. So this is a half double. So you could do that with, if you were working your rounds in half double, you could do that. Let me just go back to where I was. This is where I started the round. So you could, let's see, make sure this is my working yarn and this is my tail that I'm using for wrapping. You could chain stitch and then wrap it, and then where you would normally in half double bind off the previous stitch, you can mimic what that looks like by wrapping it again and then continue your round in half double crochet. And if you do that, you'll see that it looks again virtually identical to what a half double crochet looks like. You could do a triple crochet stitch. A triple crochet stitch is where you drop a loop, you do a chain stitch, and then you wrap it, you do a second chain stitch and then you wrap it, and then you do a third chain stitch and bind off the previous stitch. So you could mimic what that looks like, right? Same thing. Here's the tail that I'm using for wrapping. You could do a chain stitch and then wrap it. Here we go, wrap it. You could do a second chain stitch and then wrap it, and then a third chain stitch and then wrap it. And then that's going to look identical to any triple crochet. And I don't know if you would be doing rounds and anything taller than triple crochet, but if you were, you can use the tail end of your yarn to wrap up that initial chain to make it look exactly the same as your regular crochet stitch. So that's my method for doing double crochet in the round with a standing double crochet instead of the traditional chain 2 or chain 3 to start the round.